slot is chaired by Deputies Claire Daly, Mick Wallace, Ming Flanagan. Deputy Flanagan.
Yeah, thank you, Les, Ciaran Corla. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this. Great to hear there's a whole load of money being spent, or going to be spent, whatever it turns out to be. But the thing is, there has to be a little bit of accountability as to how this money is spent. And you can throw figures out there, but if the money is wasted at the end of the day, that's not a lot of use to anyone. Now, I know from a situation a few years ago in Athleague in County Roscommon, whereby €270,000 in funding was applied for, and the council got it. But they didn't spend it on what they were meant to spend it on, and there doesn't seem to be a problem with that. They were meant to spend it on doing something with flooding in the Athleague area. And what they did, from the estimates I have got from various contractors, they could have done it for about €25,000. Now, trying to find out what happened to the rest of it seems to be impossible. So can someone learn a lesson from this? And the next time you fire money out there, make sure it's spent on what it's meant to be spent on. And also, when we're talking about flooding, I know we had a tough time when the British were running this country, but I tell you, one thing they did get right is they knew how to keep the water flowing. And the 270,000 that was meant to be spent in that league, well, maybe if someone had stood down off the bridge and had a look at the fact that 4 of the eyes had been closed up by some experts in Roscommon County Council, and now they're wondering why the water doesn't flow. Well, if you put your hand over a hose pipe and turn it on, it won't kind of come out quite as quickly. And when it does come out, it comes out at a high pressure and causes damage. But sure, what's the point in looking at that? Just keep applying for money, keep bailing it down to them, and let them keep on wasting it with no accountability. And I hear from Deputy Stanley that 350 million of this money has been spent over the years. I wonder how much of it was spent properly. And you're meant to be a right-wing party in Fine Gael, and flawed and all as that philosophy is, part of that philosophy apparently is don't waste money. Well, can you start concentrating on that part of your philosophy? Now, there's also a bigger issue here when it comes to the River Shannon and about governance and who really runs this country. Who is the boss of the National Parks and Wildlife Service? Well, it seems that they are their own bosses and they decide what happens. And when you have a situation whereby there is a wilderness project going on now by the National Parks and Wildlife Service, is it any surprise that the flooding has got worse? And when I talk about a wilderness project, what I mean is this. There is now any amount of silt from Bord na Móna's briquette making process in the Shannon. And we now have a situation where islands are forming in the Shannon made from this silt. And it is slowing down the flow of the water. And when the National Parks and Wildlife Service are approached, or when the OPW is approached to get this removed, the National Parks and Wildlife Service come in and say, well, actually, this is now a very important habitat. So basically, as we move on, more and more of these habitats will come about, and eventually the human animal that currently lives there will have to move out as well, because we are heading in that direction. Now, I'm not talking about draining the Shannon or anything like that. What I am talking about is using the resources we have, the many unemployed, bored people who would love something to do, to deal with the fact that this needs to be taken out. It's not going to completely solve the problem. It's a slow-moving river, and you will have flooding, but this is exacerbating the situation. And we know of circumstances, and I know Minister Hogan, you know of circumstances, I think you do anyway, where silt has been taken out, and then we have the hit squad of the National Parks and Wildlife Service come in with their microscopes and their teaspoons and go through it bit by bit to find out exactly what is in it. Absolutely ridiculous. I presume you don't.
Okay.
Well, look it. Environmentalism is a broad church. You do not need to be a fundamentalist to be an environmentalist. What you need to do is listen to the people. You do not support environmentalism by keeping people cold in their houses. What you do is you encourage them, and what ye have done is discourage them. Because if a farmer's land is flooded in the middle of the summer because of action from the National Parks and Wildlife Service and inaction from the OPW, how can you expect those people to have respect for the environment? Because if you give me 30 seconds more, if the very same people who are being criticised for damaging the environment, many farmers, actually worked with environmentalists to try and save the corncrake and to try and save many other birds. Now we, and the hen harrier, now we have a situation where in the summer, where there is nesting meant to take place, because of the National Parks and Wildlife Service, they can't nest there anymore, and they're actually damaging the wildlife. And the farmers who cooperated are throwing their arms in the air and saying, what the hell is all this about? Now they're killing the very thing they said they were trying to save.
Thank you.
Doesn't help.
Deputy McWallace. Thank you.